Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm Ben.
And this is John.
And today we're doing a Gulp review of Detroit. Detroit, the latest film by Academy Award-winning director Katherine Bigelow, is based on the accounts taken at the Algiers Hotel during the 1967 Detroit riots. The accounts that happened in that hotel on that specific night was nothing short of horrifying and disturbing. Though this film sometimes feels like a bat to the stomach or a butt of a gun to the head, once again, Katherine Bigelow has created a mesmerizing and stunning piece of cinema that will for sure have many people talking. It's not an easy film to watch, but goddamn is it a good one. What'd you think, John?
I definitely agree. It's a very good film. I think Katherine Bigelow has done another great job with this film. A really tense dramatization of the events around this Algiers hotel during the 67 Detroit riots. I didn't know anything about this story, and that really helped my viewing experience with this movie because it was tense all the way through. It created a very tense viewing experience for this film, and I really enjoyed that. And I think Katherine Bigelow just been on a hot streak. I think this is her third film in a row that she's done kind of a docudrama style to it, a bit more indie than her previous work, like back in the 90s and stuff like that. And I think she's really come into her own as a director. She's always been great right from the beginning. She's always made great films, I think. But the style that she's using for these films, like the last two specifically, have a real kind of docudrama style to the way she shoots it. A lot of handheld camera work. The camera work in this film was excellent. Shout out to the camera crew for sure. They did a great job. Really just kept you on the edge of your seat.
Well, Katherine Bigelow's, she's definitely no stranger to good camera work and interesting camera angles to focus on tense action, and she always knows how to pick editors. These are the editors that did Zero Dark 30, her last film, and you're right, she's on a hot streak. These last three films, though I wasn't the biggest Hurt Locker fan, I did appreciate it as a piece of film. I think what she did was she pulled sort of a mid-career switch. She's got her own unique style now that feels more like a vision. You see some of that stuff poking out in one of my favorite films, Strange Days. I think you see a lot of that type of stuff in a more fantastical type of setting. Everything just seems to work in her films. Like, I knew it was going to be this way, like just from seeing one trailer. I'm like, I know this movie is going to be tense, but I didn't expect it to hit me as hard as it did. I didn't know it was going to have the gut punch it had as far as some of the brutality. I didn't know how much that was going to stretch in the story because I didn't know much about this hotel incident.
I mean, this situation drags on for a whole night almost, and you kind of feel like you're in that situation the whole entire time. It never lets up on the tension. She's put together a great cast in this film. Will Poulter is super menacing as the racist cop in this film. When you first see him on screen, I wasn't sure if I was going to believe him in that role because he's so baby-faced, but eventually he really sells you on the sadistic side that this character has, and you hate him the entire film.
He's like a comedian British guy, and he was in like We're the Millers, and he had these goofy eyebrows, and he got his dick bit by a spider.
What is it?
John Boyega is probably the most well-known with the largest amount of screen time that people know right now. And he did a really good job. He had a couple moments where I think he was showing that he can handle some dramatic work. Algie Smith, he's kind of the lead of the film, playing Larry Cleveland, I think it is. And a lot of other people that you might have seen in other films, like Jason Mitchell, who played Eazy-E in Straight Outta Compton. He has a small role in this that was really good.
Yeah, this movie has Eazy-E, Jim from The Office, and the Falcon all show up in this movie in one place and one time.
John Krasinski?
John Krasinski shows up in this movie.
He was interesting in the role that they chose to put him in. When you first see him for a second in that role, I was like, okay, that's kind of a strange pick for who he's got. But as they play out the scenes that the main scene that he's in, which is a courtroom scene, it was a good fit. I hated him, and it was a good fit.
I just want to give a shout out to my boy Malcolm David Kelly from Lost. Was written into Lost as some big main character, and because of his large abnormal growth spurt in his puberty years, it was written off that show, and damn does he have a great courtroom scene in this film.
You were talking about the gut punch of this film and the brutality in this film. Any film that deals with this subject matter, that deals with the civil rights movement, deals with racism in this way, it's always going to be a hard watch, but there's definitely moments in this film where it's just hard to put yourself in this day and age, even though there's a lot of racism, it seems like, still going on in this country, which is amazing. At that time, it's just the mindset of some of these people, and we've seen it in many films before, but it's just hard to put ourselves in that place. The escalation of this whole situation from the beginning of the riots, the way it's depicted in the film, they show you that there's things that happen on both sides. The cops do things that are wrong and brutal. The rioters start things and cause things and escalate things and perpetuate things that didn't need to continue. It's hard to watch, not just from the brutality, but also from the poor decision making, I think.
When you're watching, you have ground troops, two opposing sides. You can't help but think of the people in the fucking ivory towers. When you see cops, and cops are being brutal, and then you see, what the people in the neighborhoods and the rioters and the looters are doing. They're doing the wrong things in the moments. You always wonder, especially in this day and age that we live in this country, the people in the ivory towers are the ones who set the mood for all this stuff to go down, and then everyone tears each other apart. And this movie is a good representation of that, I think. It's two opposing sides of people being scared that really shouldn't be opposing sides at all. Not saying that they're just doing their job. I mean, there's awful fucking cocksucking pigs in this movie.
Well, and they also show cops that are trying to do the right thing. So the film, I think, was very even-handed on showing both sides of the story, but there were obviously people who were very much in the wrong in this film, cops who were making terrible, horrific choices in this film. I mean, they really created a believable situation, and these people were very believable in their performances dealing with this situation. I think also the camera work adds to that whole frantic element of this situation going down. The gritty look of everything, the atmosphere, the way it was shot also has kind of I wouldn't say the film looks like a 60s film like the time it's set in. The film didn't necessarily feel like it ran long, but we did notice a couple scenes that felt like maybe they could have been, if there was room to cut down, there was a little bit at the end and a little bit at the beginning. It did take a little bit of time.
Super close quarters second act film, where everything just takes place in this really quick, tight quarters. And this did everything so well. And granted, it was only, a small hallway and then a few bedrooms, but I was never confused as to where anyone was in the house at any given time. That was a good trick, because they do kind of put people in certain spots and you ultimately forget about them for a little bit, but then there they are. It feels so real. John Boyega's character represents that realism, where he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing in this situation. He's more like a catalyst. You're kind of like following things through what he's witnessing to some extent. Not that shocking that the cinematographer also did Jason Bourne and Captain Phillips. He toned down the shaky cam. For sure. This movie had it exactly where it needed to be, and it never bothered me once.
Yeah, this is how you do it.
Can't tell what's going on in this movie.
No, not at all.
I think Greengrass is behind him, tickling him. Or something.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the camera work all throughout this film, all the way down to the assistant camera work. Daryl Byrne, man, the first assistant camera on C Camera, did a great job.
Did a great job, man. Congratulations. Awesome movie to be a part of.
Yeah, for sure.
To me, the big star of the film, once again, is Katherine Bigelow. She's one of my favorite directors of all time. I love all her work. She's just created her own vision, and she loves doing gritty, real, good R-rated work that pushes her point across.
Katherine Bigelow nailed it again. Another great film. One of the best of the summer, one of the best of the year, I think, at this point as well. I would have to say this movie's a 7.
And for my Gulp score, I loved this film. I thought it was very well written, very well paced, very well acted. I thought Will Poulter was fantastic in it. Good performances across the board. It was good to see the Falcon come in there, swoop in and save the day. Really good piece of filmmaking. Katherine Bigelow just knows how to tell a good story. I can't wait to see what she does next. So for my Gulp score, I'm going to give Detroit 8.5 gulps. As always, if you like this review, please click like and or subscribe to our channel today. You can leave some comments down in the comment section below.
Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Look for Cinema Gulp.
Until next time, this is Ben.
And this is John. We drink your cinema.
I drink it up! The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.